Hey, welcome to Mystic Citizen. I'm Linda. I want to talk to you today about a job. Not a job you're applying for, a job you already have. One you were issued the day you were born. I've been watching the congressional hearings lately, and maybe you have too. I've been watching elected officials present evidence, make arguments, deliver insults, and pontificate to no end. And I've been sitting there on my couch feeling something I think a lot of you are feeling too. I feel like I'm watching a performance, a game show, a spectacle that produces a lot of heat, but never quite produces accountability. And that frustration sent me somewhere I did not expect. It sent me back to the Constitution, not as a scholar, not as a lawyer, as a citizen, as someone trying to understand the terms of a job I realized I had never fully read the description for. What I found changed how I see everything. And I want to share it with you today. Because what I ended up writing was a job description, a literal job description, for the position of United States citizen. And I'd like to read it to you right now. Here we go. Now hiring, 330 million positions available. Position title, Citizen of the United States of America. The organization is the Constitutional Republic of the United States. Reports to the Constitution of the United States. Accountable to fellow citizens. The position type, lifetime appointment. Non-negotiable. Non-transferable. Date issued upon birth or naturalization. Compensation. See the benefits below. Position summary. The citizen serves as both beneficiary and steward of the American democratic experiment. This position is not honorary. It is not symbolic. It is the foundational operational role upon which every function of the Republic depends. The citizen is the source of all government authority, the check on all government power, and the custodian of the constitutional order for current and future generations. This is the most important job you will ever hold. Most people do not know they hold it. Core responsibilities. Constitutional literacy. Know the foundational document that governs your nation. Understand the separation of powers, the Bill of Rights, and the limits placed on every branch of government, including the presidency. Informed engagement. Follow the actions of elected officials with the same diligence you would apply to anyone managing your most valuable assets. Your government is your most valuable asset. Electoral participation. Vote in every election, federal, state, and local. This is your performance review of those who serve in your name. It is not optional. It is the mechanism by which the people exercise sovereign authority. civic vigilance. Monitor the exercise of power. When officials act beyond their constitutional authority, it is your duty to notice, to speak, and to act through lawful and peaceful means. Peaceful assembly and petition. Exercise your First Amendment rights not as a last resort, but as a regular function of democratic life. Protest is not disruption. It is maintenance. Community stewardship. Serve on juries. Attend town meetings. Engage in civil discourse. Support free press. Defend the rights of fellow citizens, especially those whose rights are most vulnerable. Intergenerational responsibility. Preserve the Constitution order not only for yourself, but for those who come after you. You inherited this republic. You are obligated to pass it forward intact. Required qualifications. Willingness to be informed, even when the information is uncomfortable. Capacity for civil disagreement, without dehumanizing those who disagree. Courage to hold your own representatives accountable, especially those you voted for. And an understanding that liberty is not the absence of responsibility, but its highest expression. Performance review. Reviews are conducted at regular intervals. Local elections, state elections, midterm elections, and presidential elections. Between reviews, the citizen is expected to engage in continuous self-assessment. Am I paying attention? Am I showing up? Am I holding power accountable, or am I looking away? Compensation and benefits. You get freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. You get due process and equal protection under the law. You get the right to vote and to choose your representatives. You get protection from unreasonable government intrusion into your life. You get a government that derives its power from your consent. Benefits are not guaranteed. They are maintained only through the active performance of the duties described above. When enough citizens fail to perform, benefits erode for everyone. Consequences of non-performance. You will not be fired. You cannot be fired. That is both the grace and the danger of this position. There is no supervisor who will call you into the office and terminate your citizenship for neglecting the duties. The repercussions are not individual. They are collective. They fall on your neighbors, your children, your community, your country. When enough citizens stop performing the requirements of this role, the Republic does not send a warning letter. It simply begins to fail. Read that last section again. Actually, I'll say it differently. Sit with it, because everything I'm about to say grows out of those words. Who issued this job? Here is the part most of us have forgotten, or perhaps never fully understood. No one issued this job to us. We issued it to ourselves. The Constitution of the United States does not begin with "we the government." It does not begin with "we the president," or "we the Congress," or "we the courts." It begins with 3 words that are not a preamble. They are a job description. We, the people. Those 3 words mean that the citizens of this nation are not passengers on a ship piloted by elected officials. We are the owners of the vessel. The president, the Congress, the courts, they are the crew. They serve at our pleasure and under our authority. Every power they exercise was delegated to them by us through a document we wrote, and they swore an oath to uphold. When the owners of an enterprise stop showing up, stop reviewing the books, stop holding management accountable, the enterprise doesn't just underperform, it gets looted. And the owners have no one to blame but themselves. Not because they caused the looting, but because they created the conditions in which looting could occur. The requirements we forgot somewhere along the way, American citizenship, became something we carry in our wallets rather than something we carry in our daily practice. We reduced it to a status, a legal designation that entitles us to a passport, a vote every 4 years, and the right to complain on social media. We treated the benefits as automatic and the responsibilities as optional. But the framers didn't design a self-operating system. They designed a system that requires human hands on it at all times. Benjamin Franklin didn't say we had a republic. He said we had a republic if we could keep it. That conditional clause is everything. It means the republic is not a monument. It is a living organism that requires constant tending, constant nourishment, constant vigilance. How many of us can name the 3 branches of government? How many can explain what the 14th Amendment guarantees? Or why the Take Care Clause matters? Or what impoundment means and why Congress outlawed it 50 years ago? How many of us understand that executive orders do not carry the force of law when they contradict the Constitution or statutes passed by Congress? These are not trivia questions. These are the terms of our employment. And most of us have never read the manual. What happens when we don't show up? In 2025 and 26, the United States had been witnessing something that legal scholars, historians, and constitutional experts describe as unprecedented. A sustained pattern of executive actions that federal courts have found to violate the Constitution, followed by a pattern of defiance of those very court rulings, and a Congress controlled by a majority party that has declined to exercise any of its constitutional oversight powers in response. Judges appointed by presidents of both parties have blocked executive orders that attempted to redefine birthright citizenship in defiance of the 14th Amendment. Courts have struck down orders targeting law firms for representing disfavored clients, finding violations of the First, Fifth, and Sixth Amendments. The Supreme Court itself ruled unanimously that a man erroneously deported must be returned. And the administration argued that the ruling didn't actually require them to return him. Federal grants appropriated by Congress have been frozen unilaterally. Congressionally created agencies have been dismantled by executive fiat. Clean energy funding was canceled based on whether recipients lived in states that voted for the president, a practice a federal court called a violation of equal protection. A war was initiated without the congressional authorization the Constitution explicitly requires. And through it all, the majority in Congress, the body specifically designed by the framers to serve as the first check on executive overreach, has done nothing. A Senate report put it plainly. The Constitution gives Congress the tools to check this. The tools are there. The majority party has simply chosen not to pick them up. This is what happens when the owners stop showing up. The crew rewrites the rules. The first mate looks the other way, and the ship drifts towards rocks that everyone can see, but no one with a hand on the wheel is willing to steer away from them. The repercussions are already here. Let us be clear about what we mean by repercussions, because the consequences of mass civic non-performance are not theoretical. They are not future tense. They are present tense. When courts issue rulings and the executive branch defies them, the Congress does nothing. The separation of powers, the central structural feature of American democracy, ceases to function. It doesn't make a sound when it breaks. There is no alarm. The buildings still stand, the flag still flies, but the mechanism that prevents any one person or branch from accumulating unchecked power has been disconnected. And once it's disconnected, every right you enjoy as a citizen becomes contingent on the goodwill of whoever holds power, rather than guaranteed by the structure of the system itself. Your freedom of speech, protected by the First Amendment, but only if courts can enforce it and the executive respects their rulings. Your right to due process, guaranteed by the 5th and 14th Amendments, but only if the government doesn't circumvent court orders requiring it. Your vote, meaningful, only if the constitutional framework that gives elections their authority remains intact. Every benefit listed in the compensation pack of citizenship is underwritten by the structural integrity of the constitutional system, and that structural integrity is maintained by one force and one force alone: citizens who understand their role and perform it. The tools that remain when the legislative branch abdicates and the enforcement arm of the judiciary is controlled by the very branch it's trying to check. Two constitutional tools remain in the hands of the people: the First Amendment and the ballot. The First Amendment is not a permission slip to complain. It is the constitutional mechanism by which the people exercise direct pressure on their government between elections. The right to assemble, to speak, to petition for redress of grievances. These are not luxuries of democracy. They are its operating system. When you march, when you call your representative, when you show up at a town hall, when you refuse to be silent, you are not being disruptive. You are doing your job. The ballot is the ultimate performance review. It is the mechanism the framers designed as the final check. When all other checks have failed, it is the one power that no executive order can override, no court can nullify, and no congressional majority can ignore. That is, provided enough citizens use it. There's research from Harvard University that has documented that the protest movements of 2025 have been the most geographically diverse and sustained in American history, spreading into counties that voted for the current president, persisting month after month, remaining overwhelmingly peaceful. The October No Kings protests may have been the largest single-day mobilization in the nation's history. And the evidence suggests these efforts are working. The administration has retreated on specific fronts. Approval ratings have fallen. The political landscape heading into 2026 has shifted, and we have the midterms in November. This is what it looks like when citizens start doing their job. So here's the question this essay has been building toward. The question that transforms this from something you're listening to into a mirror you're looking into. Are you meeting the requirements of the position you were issued? Are you informed, not by headlines and outrage cycles, but by the actual structure of your government and the actual actions of your representatives? Do you understand what the Constitution says, what it protects, what it prohibits? Can you identify when a line has been crossed, or do you depend on someone else to tell you? Are you engaged not just in presidential elections, but in the midterms, the local races, the school board elections, the primaries? And that's where candidates are chosen before most voters are even paying attention. Are you using your voice not just to express frustration in private conversations, but to show up, to be counted, to make your presence felt by those who hold power in your name? Are you doing this sustainably, not in bursts of anger that fade, but with a steady, persistent commitment of someone who understands that this is not a crisis to survive, but a job to perform every day for the rest of your life? There is grace here, and that there's danger. You cannot be fired from this position. That is the grace. No one can strip you of your citizenship for failing to vote, for ignoring the news, for never reading the Constitution, for letting someone else worry about it. You will still have your passport. You will still have your social security number, and you will still be, in the legal sense, a citizen. But that is also the danger, because the absence of individual consequences creates the illusion that there are no consequences at all. And so millions of people treat this job the way a teenager treats a summer internship, showing up when it's convenient, doing the minimum, assuming someone else is handling the important stuff. No one else is handling it. That is the message of this moment in American history. The officials who swore an oath to the Constitution are breaking it. The officials who are elected to check executive power are enabling it. The courts are fighting, but lack of enforcement mechanisms to compel compliance leaves them on their own. The system is not broken in the way a machine breaks. It is broken in the way a garden dies when no one tends it. And a garden does not need one heroic gardener. It needs 1,000 ordinary ones, each tending their own plot, each pulling their share of the weeds, each showing up when the weather is miserable and the work feels pointless. The job you were issued at birth, we the people, is not a historical artifact. It is a present tense declaration, a statement of active responsibility, renewed with every generation, affirmed or abandoned by the daily choices of every citizen. You were issued this job the day you drew breath on American soil, or the day you raised your hand and took the oath of naturalization. No one asked if you wanted it. No one explained the terms. No one sat you down and said, "You are now a steward of the most ambitious experiment in self-governance the world has ever attempted, and the experiment depends on you." And it does. It depends on you. The way a bridge depends on the cables, not on any single one, but on enough of them holding to bear the weight. When too many go slack, the whole structure fails. Not dramatically, not all at once, but with a slow, sickening sag that everyone can feel and no single cable can reverse on its own. We are in a sag. You can feel it. That is why you're listening to this. The question is not whether you were issued this job. You were. The question is whether you will perform it. Perform it with the seriousness, the consistency, and the love that it demands. Not love of party, not love of personality. Love of the idea that ordinary people can govern themselves, that power can be checked by paper and principle, that a nation can be built not on the authority of kings, but on the consent of the governed. That idea is your inheritance. It is your responsibility. It is your job. Show up for it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to the end of this. This episode is drawn from an essay that I'll link in the description below. Please share it. Not because I'm asking you to promote my work, but because someone in your life needs to read that job description. Someone in your life has been showing up for this job without ever knowing they held it. Or maybe they've stopped showing up and they need to be reminded why it matters. This essay is also part of my newest book, available digitally. When Winning Isn't Enough: 4 Futures for a Fractured Democracy. This is the 3rd book in the Way Forward series. If you're new to Mystic Citizen, this is where civic responsibility meets spiritual practice, where we believe that loving your country and holding it accountable are not opposing forces. They are the same force. Subscribe if that resonates with you, and I'll see you next time. Take care of each other, and take care of this republic.